Alex Ross, that's a name that you don't hear very often here in comic books, despite the fact that, for all intents and purposes, he's one of the best comic book artists alive right now. And I say that with the suffix of artist. You have first names, you have last names. Whenever you put them on a piece of paper, your last name appears first. If your name is John Smith, then it's going to appear as Smith, comma, John. What people tend to forget about comic books, what comic book writers and comic book artists tend to forget about themselves, actually, is the suffix is the most important part. That's why they put it first whenever they list people. And in important documents, your last name comes first. Well, what's the suffix of comic artist, comic writer? It's writer, it's artist. So you are first and foremost an artist and a writer, right? That makes sense. That makes sense to me. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks that way. So Alex Ross being one of the best comic book artists living, breathing today, I say that artistically. He has not illustrated, say, the best comics of the last 20 years. He has, in fact, given some of the best illustrations of comic book characters in the last 20, 30 years. Because he is a painter. And painting, one of the highest art forms that there is. And I only say that because, for me, I only know Alex Ross from Kingdom Come. The story that he did back in the 90s, the future Superman. Everybody knows the Superman suit. They're using the Kingdom Come logo in a lot of the promotion for new Superman things. And everybody knows it. Everybody talks about it. It's another one of those long Halloween situations. Oh, Kingdom Come. Well, this happened and this happened. But nobody says it's their favorite. And that's not anything putting him down. That's just the truth. A lot of stories from the 90s, you tend to get that. But I recently watched a video from Sasha Casually Comics, who you're going to hear me talk about a lot, actually. She talked about this book here. I found it at my library, which I was very lucky to have found it there. She talked about this book. And I had heard about this. It came out in August of 22. I don't know how many of you remember. And in August of 22, all I knew about Alex Ross was he made Kingdom Come, and he did so many variant covers for Marvel that they put out a book called Marvelocity that just collected his variant covers because they are all works of art. And I remember seeing that, and I think, he's doing variant covers for Marvel. Marvel can't afford to hire him. They can't afford to put him on the book. Oh, and by the way, when Marvel publishes this graphic novel, they didn't publish it themselves. They teamed up with another publishing house. That's here or there. So I watched Casually Comics video on Alex Ross, on Fantastic Four, Full Circle, as it is appropriately called, and I'm blown away. Her description of the book, I'm blown away. And it just so happens that I'm getting into Fantastic Four just recently with Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, and it just so happens that this book is based off of one of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee's story from the original 100-issue run of Fantastic Four. So I start watching the video, and she's showing all these panels, and when I first saw this, I thought the colors are weird. It's Alex Ross. He has this really weird thing in his paintings where everything looks really foggy. He wasn't my favorite artist by any means. I respected him very greatly, but he wasn't my favorite. Well, I'm seeing her work, and she sold me on it. Every one of her descriptions, she said it pays homage, it talks about the original characters, it's kind of timeless, it's fun, it goes into the negative zone, it experiments with all these ideas that were back in the 60s. Alex Ross has real appreciation, and I want to bring that to the top that I noticed Casually Comics had pointed out, and I myself, when reading this, have noticed Alex Ross, before he's even an artist, is a fan of comics, and he's one of the fans of comics that has done it right, I feel. Because I've seen a couple of videos of his on the internet, on his YouTube channel, and you look at this guy's studio, he has an entire room, a room bigger than this room that I am in, which is not a small room, but a large room. Toys. If you've ever gone to a collector's shop, a comic book store, then they have the glass shelves and just toy galore with statues of all these superheroes and anime characters. That's what one of the rooms in Alex Ross's house looks like. So this guy who's making good money from comic books, who's made a good living off of comic books, has an entire room in his house that for all intents and purposes could be a museum exhibit for comic book toys, paraphernalia, things throughout the ages. He collects these things, and he draws these things, and he paints these things, and he's good at it. And he appreciates it. And he appreciates himself. I think, okay, I don't know why I wasn't a bigger fan of this guy before. It's Kingdom Come, right? I read Full Circle. I was reading it last night, and I've never been so shocked and in so much awe reading a comic book before. I read this comic book. I have not finished. I'm a few pages out from the finish. I went to bed. It took my breath away. In every other page I was turning, I I audibly gasped. And I don't do that a lot. I don't do that a lot reading books because I don't think a lot of books are worth gasping over. I don't usually get that invested in whatever I'm reading. This kept on taking my... I kept on looking at these panels, and it got to the point where every panel was almost as exciting as the last. Every panel was almost as exciting as a splash page that Alex Ross would do, and that really... there was a point where I thought, okay, listen, I implore any one of you to find me a boring panel in this book. I could flip to any given page right now and find an exciting panel. You have this panel here with Ben Grimm and Reed Richards. Oh, and not to mention the panel work in the book itself is done very well. Everything in this book is artistic. He took the artist part of comic book artist and he ran with it. He ran with it full sprint. He got away. He's wanted by the police. He's America's Most Wanted. He got away with it. He got away with it because every single page. And I was thinking about reading it, and I'm reading it, and I think this could be an art book. I thought this should be an art book. Oh, it is. There's no other art to it. The art is all in here. It's painted. It's inked. Everything is there. Everything that would otherwise be considered an art book is in this book, which is a graphic novel. And the storytelling is there. The appreciation of Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, the original characters, the homage that it pays. He repainted in a small panel the cover for this man, this monster, the famous Fantastic Four issue by Stan and Jack, where the Thing is very depressed and it's the Thing in the rain. A lot of rain back in the 60s in those comic books. And I'm reading this and I think this guy has so much of an appreciation for comic books. And he understands it. He understands the time period it's from. He understands the characters. He loves the characters. He believes that these characters are real. So much so that he made statues for each one of these characters so that way he could photo reference them. And I think that if this book has any drawbacks, which it doesn't, really, it doesn't have any drawbacks. If this book were to have any drawbacks, it's that in some of the ways that he painted these characters, they looked a little stiff. And they looked a little stiff. I think it's because he was doing it from little action figures and statues of the characters. He got them so perfectly that they looked as lifeless as the action figures. I think that's more of a testament to how good of an artist he is rather than a negative on the book. But I think that if there was any negative point to the book, it would be that. But just by example, let me show you this page that really took me away and hooked me into the rest of the book, because it's a 2-page spread of this character Annihilus from Fantastic Four. I don't believe they've used Annihilus very often since. And look at that. Like, you almost can't tell what you're looking at immediately because of the cover, but between the composition, the scale, the colors, you could name a million things. I could flip to any one of these pages and just name something about it. Look at this. It's Mr. Fantastic being strung up with all the other characters with him. And you have the portrait of this guy, the colors, the monsters, the compositions, the panels, the dialogue. I mean, you name it, and this book has it. And it was sitting at my library this entire time, and I wasn't reading it. It's crazy. Listen, I think that as far as comics go, where I've been saying, you have too many fans of comics in comics, writing comics is too much like fan fiction. This is a prime example of how you can get somebody who grew up loving comic books and appreciating comic books to write a good book about characters that aren't his. This is a guy who understands, and I think the artistic part of this guy's brain is what allows him to do that, because you don't have any other painters in comic books. I feel like painters don't necessarily have a place in comic books because it's so time consuming. He got lucky enough that Marvel allowed him to do this graphic novel as opposed to getting stuck on a monthly or anything like it, because he could do this in a monthly, and he didn't want to do this in a monthly. I'm almost entirely convinced that he did this just to show off that he is the best artist in comic books right now, alive and breathing. I think that's why he made this. I don't even think he made this because he liked it. I think he just wanted to make it to show, hey guys, you want to see something that you can't top? I looked at other comic books before I went to bed last night when I was done reading this. I looked at it was almost like trash. I was looking at other comic books I enjoyed, I opened them up, and I thought, this is boring. The colors suck. The dynamic poses are not dynamic. The panel layouts are boring. Everything is flat. It was almost like I took off my 3D glasses and everything's two-dimensional. That's what it felt like when reading this made me feel like other comics are bad. And I think that's a testament to Alex Ross and how much he has grown as an artist since Kingdom Come, and how much he can change his own style to suit a book like this, because no other colorist would have been able to give you this book. No other artist would have been able to draw this book properly. Alex Ross is the only living, breathing human being on this planet that could give you a book this well done. And I think that's a testament to Alex Ross. And I think if you are a fan of comic books, and you are a fan of good artists within comic books, I implore you to get this book. And better yet, tell me if you can find a boring panel, because I can't find a single one.